This is an old version of the Grazier from Harold Boots. You can still get this, but there are subtle differences, so I thought I'd review this for you anyway so you can compare it with a new one that you can buy. G'day, welcome to Bootlosophy. My name is Tech and we are recording on Wadjuk country in Perth in Western Australia. Today I'm bringing to you this old boot. But it is still available today from Harold Boots, only it's now made in Vietnam, while this old pair were made in Australia. Harold Boots, or also known as Ian Harold the Bootmaker, has a long history, and I thought I'd start with that, especially for those people from overseas who think that the only volume heritage bootmaker in Australia is R.M. Williams. In fact, it's said that R.M. Williams modelled his first Chelsea boot on Harold Boots' offerings. The Harold Boot Company traces its origins back to, wait for it, the 1400s in Leicestershire in England, when the Harold family became bespoke shoemakers. Now, when you consider that the 1400s was the time of the Plantagenets, various Henrys and Edwards of the houses of York and Lancaster, you realize that medieval footwear, apart from the knight's protective steel sabots, were moccasin-style, lasted from below patanes, poulaines, and turn shoes. You'll see that this was really heritage, but not the shoe construction we have today. The Harolds continued their bespoke shoemaking until the late 1890s, when John Harold tried to expand the brand in a time of growth, but he found that he was limited by the availability of good quality leather in England. So finally, in 1912, he had the opportunity to send his oldest son, Frederick, to Australia to source leather being tanned there. But when Frederick arrived, he saw that the booming opportunities were great and started a factory in Abbotsford in New South Wales. While Rossi Boots was founded a couple of years before that, Harold Boots can say they were around in England well before then, so arguably, depending on some sophistry, they are the oldest bootmakers in Australia. Having established Harold Boots in Australia, they expanded their range over time and during both World Wars contributed hugely to the making of combat boots for the Australian forces. They introduced their Grazier boot, this basic model, in 1925, and as far as I can see, it was the first Australian-produced whole-cut, one-piece Chelsea boot, beating R.M. Williams by 10 or so years. Frederick's grandson Ian eventually took over, and that was when the company also came to be known as Ian Harold the Bootmaker. In 1988, as local demand for quality footwear reduced, isn't that a story? Ian sold the company to his business associate. During that time, when Australia opened up free trade and as workers became hard to replace, it became more efficient to manufacture overseas, and for some time, manufacture of Harold Boots were in both Australia and Vietnam until 2013, when all production was moved to Ho Chi Minh City. It is said that you can tell where the boots are made by the shape of the logo imprinted in the sole. In my Harold Gardner boots, they have a rectangular logo. On these, they have a round logo. The round logo boots are made in Australia, whereas the rectangular logo boots are made in Vietnam. I've put below links to both Harold Boots and to an Australian retail company called Everything Australian, which I found to be very, very helpful. Neither are affiliate links and I don't have any links with either company. The Grazier from Harold Boots is a Chelsea boot. Chelsea boots are known to have been invented by Queen Victoria's bootmaker, J. Sparks Hall, in the 1850s, when she wanted a riding and walking boot quicker to pull on and off than the day's female riding boots that required laces, hooks, and stays. Since vulcanized rubber had just been invented then, he inserted the goring panels of rubber so that they could be pulled on and off without laces to catch on stirrups. Over the late 1800s, the rich and fashionable Chelsea set from around Sloane Square and Knightsbridge started to copy her design, and in the 1960s, they got a further boost when pop groups like the Beatles chose to wear them with their monkey suits as part of their stage gear. In fact, Chelsea boots had been popular long before then, even if not called Chelsea boots. They were known as elastic-sided boots before that Chelsea moniker became attached to them through the pop era of the 60s. They had been used as easy pull-on riding and work boots in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. The style is of a slim 6-inch boot with a block heel, although some had taller riding heels. This Grazier is a whole cut, meaning it's made from one piece of leather with only one seam up the back. Flat-soled, low-heeled. It has the iconic Chelsea boot features of the elastic goring panels and the two cloth pull tabs of the Australian preference. It's a rounded almond toe boot and so is sleek and elegant, as well as suitable for horse riding in a stirrup. Oh, a grazier, by the way, that's an Australian term for the owner of a cattle or sheep station. That's ranchers to my American friends. So expect to wear this boot casually like a grazier, except that, of course, in the last couple of decades, Chelsea boots, and in particular black and dark brown versions, have been worn with suits in Australia as an office boot. However, setting aside suits, which not many people wear to work anymore, you might consider a smart casual outfit like a pair of black chinos topped with a dark olive shirt and a tan blazer. You can also go high-low in the outfit with a dark denim jean, a black shirt, and a black blazer which balances the black boot. Ultimately, of course, you can go all country and wear them with tan jeans and a denim shirt and, of course, an akubra. Now, let's look at the construction. But before I do, let me remind you to click on like, and if you're liking this video, of course, and subscribe if you're not already, please. The algorithm will serve you more videos like this, and it really helps me out if you do. Okay, so construction. I'll start with the headline item, the kangaroo leather uppers. Harold boots don't make the Grazier in kangaroo leather anymore. And the Grazier boots that you can get now are made from yearling calf leather, which is the same supple yearling as used by R.M. Williams. I realize that kangaroo leather is banned in some countries and by some brands, but kangaroos are not endangered in Australia, and in fact in many places they are a pest attacking crops and commercial farms. They are also heavily overpopulated in some parts of Australia, the more remote parts, and as a result in some places there are licensed culls, similar to the way where kudu antelope is also controlled in southern Africa. There have been concerns in the past about the endangerment of kangaroo populations in some parts of the country, as well as animal welfare concerns during culls and hunts. But most of that has been alleviated by issuing culling licenses and creating seasons for culling, and in the more remote parts of Australia, the empowerment of Aboriginal rangers to protect the species. During culls and hunts, the animals are killed humanely by expert shots. I've seen helicopter culls where the animals are watched for days. They're tracked to check if they have joeys or young, and then when they're cleared, killed with a single shot. And all of the skins and meat are used. Now, while illegal shooting still goes on, often by frustrated farmers, their control is much more regulated these days. Kangaroo leather is generally more expensive than bovine, but it has a very high collagen content, which means a high tensile strength, meaning that it's exceptionally strong, lightweight, and flexible for its relative thickness. It's also known to be more breathable and has an attractive grain structure. The other side of the coin is that it is prone to creasing and wrinkling, and some tanneries allow the leather to show the more wrinkly grain than the smooth. The upper is one piece of leather. It's called a whole cut, where one piece of leather is lasted, incredibly difficult, so that there is only one seam up the back. You'll see that in cheaper Chelsea boots like Blundstones, that they're made up of several pieces with seams up the instep or at least up at the sides. The seam up the back is really finely stitched, even more so than a pair of R.M. Williams boots these days, so much so that you can hardly see the stitching. The stitching of the elastic goring pieces is also really fine and less than a millimeter from the edge of the leather. At the collar are securely stitched two black cloth pull tabs with Ian Harrold the bootmaker and Melbourne, Australia embroidered on them. The entire boot is lined with a very soft leather, probably sheep or goat skin, I think. The toe stiffener and heel counter on this boot are leather, but I don't think there are on the Grazier available today. Inside the boot, there is a leather-topped foam liner stitched to the leather insole. I'll tell you about that. And on top of the heel is a leather sock liner with the company logo printed on it. Going on down, the uppers are attached to the bottoms using fair stitch welt construction that's unique to Harold boots. The uppers are turned in as they're lasted, and then glued to the insole, and a carbon fiber shank is glued on here between the heel area and the ball of the foot for arch support and stability. A leather midsole has a donut hole cut out of the ball area and then glued to the insole, similar to the way Wootons make their boots, by the way. The midsole is then Blake stitched to the insole on the inside, including right up through that foam liner, and the donut hole is then filled with cork. The outsole is then glued to the midsole, which peeks out from the underside of the boot looking like a welt. And the midsole is stitched to the outsole at its outside edge. The outsole, midsole, insole are also brass wire screwed through at this stage for even more sturdiness. Now, this is the same brass wire screw machine used by the likes of Gorrell and William Lennon in the UK, and there are like 6 or 7 such machines left in the world. The machine that was in Melbourne was shipped to Vietnam when they moved production. It uses a threaded brass wire that stitches and screws through the layers, but then cuts itself off after each stitch so that it acts like a screw. Clearly very strong. The outsole used to be made in Melbourne and is a full rubber sole infused with cork. The solid rubber heel is then glued and internally screw nailed using hardened buttress cling nails. Basically, it's a threaded nail. All in all, pretty darn sturdy. And how do you take care of kangaroo leather? Most of you who are long-time subscribers know what I'm going to say. Keep it clean. Make sure that you regularly brush dry dirt off and then wipe the boots down with a damp cloth and then brush again when it's dry. It's said that kangaroo leather can show watermarks, but in black. I haven't seen any show through. But then take what I'm about to say next with a pinch of salt if you have a lighter color like the brown colors. For deeper cleaning, I think a good quality saddle soap is fine, good quality. Follow the instructions, but condition it as soon as it dries because the soap will pull the oils out. Definitely avoid oversaturating the leather, so I would avoid rinsing the soap off under a tap. Good saddle soaps have a little wax and conditioner in them, so it's controversial, but I think it's fine to wipe the suds off when it's clean. As for conditioning, I use Venetian shoe cream. If you want, I think R.M. Williams' leather conditioner is fine. I'd avoid oily conditioners, but a little lanolin content is fine, I think. This leather also takes a shine, so you can follow the conditioning with a little black boot cream and then a smear of black wax polish. I know this is an old version of the Grazier, but I will talk about sizing and fit because I've been told that their Vietnam factory uses the same lasts used in Australia that were transferred there. Harold Boots uses true to size UK sizing convention, which is 1 number down from US. I measure a US 8.5 in D width. So in UK sizing, I'm a 7.5 in length in what they call average width. However, the volume of my feet at the ball, not the width, the volume, is bigger than a standard D width. Harold don't seem to have different widths, and when I got these, I decided a 7.5 cramped the ball of my feet a little, so I opted for a UK size 8. And they are a little loose in the heel, but not particularly longer. With the volume of my feet, I don't think a 7.5 would have worked. It would just have been a little too tight across there. I wear them with a thin leather insole now, and that seems to give me a good, but it's not a great fit, it's good. Taking that the sizing is a little off, they're comfortable enough. The foam footbed is good, and the almond toe shape doesn't cramp my toes. I do wear them all day in an office situation, lots of sitting, and I don't have any comfort issues. Certainly the rubber soles are comfortable to walk in and are good in shock absorption. Today, the Harold Boots Grazier are listed on their website as 450 Aussie dollars plus 10% GST. GST is like VAT in Europe or sales tax in the US. I know when I was working in the US, I always got caught buying things at X price and then going to the till and being charged Y price because of the addition of sales tax, which they didn't put on the labels. With GST, that means Harold lists them at Aussie 495, which is what they sell for on the Everything Australian website. As far as I know, there's no further duty if shipped to Europe and to our other free trade partners, but there's a possibility that US customers may have to pay a customs tariff at their end. And that at that price for a yearling version, made in a Vietnamese fair trade factory, It's at the edge of what they might be in value terms. R.M. Williams with their normal Goodyear welt construction sell for nearly 700 Aussie now. And you really can't compare prices with extruded PU construction boots from Blunnies and Rossi and Mongrel. A normal pair of fashion boots made in God knows where, under God knows whatever factory conditions, sell in the retail shops for over 300. Is the better and unique construction worth the extra $100 or so? I think so, but it is getting close. Okay, so that's it. Harold is an under-the-radar brand even in Australia, but you might want to check them out. Everything Australian do have sales from time to time. Now, I have no dog in the fight as I don't have any links with them, but I've always found Everything Australian to be very helpful, so you might want to keep an eye on them. Okay, don't forget to like and subscribe, the usual. I'm back next week. Until then, take care out there and see you again soon.